सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. So yesterday we were doing the fifth verse, which is the sixth verse actually. Krishna's response to Arjuna's question could only have added to his confusion. If they both had previous births and Krishna knew about this, then he must be Ishvara. But if he was Ishvara, how could he have been born since Ishvara can never be born? Krishna explains all this to Arjuna in the next few verses. Ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanamishvaropi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavamyatma mayaya. Even though being one who is unborn, one whose knowledge does not wane, and also being the Lord of all living beings, still wielding my own Prakriti, I, as though, come into being by my own creative power. We see from this verse that Krishna's birth is a very peculiar birth indeed. Being one who is never born, he as though comes into being. Also, Krishna describes himself here as one whose power to know does not wane or decline, as Avyayatma, meaning one for whom there is no state of ignorance or delusion. We can also say that being one who is never born, he is not subject to death either. Furthermore, he is the Lord of all beings, the one who made the entire creation for the enjoyment of all, and the one who introduced and wields all the laws and who is therefore not bound by them. He is also the Karma Phaladata, the giver of the fruits of all actions. Ishvara is the cause for the entire creation, both the subtle world, Sukshma Prapancha, and the physical world, Sthula Prapancha. Maya, Prakriti, which is non-separate from Ishvara, becomes the material cause for this creation. And wielding this Maya, his Shakti, he as though comes into being in the form of this creation. Since Krishna as Ishvara is on one side of Maya and Arjuna was on the other side, Arjuna could not see him as he was. This is like a magician who always keeps the audience in front so that they see only the magic, not the Maya, the trick. And of course, the magician never comes under the spell of his or her own magic. Otherwise, there would be no magician. Because you, a jiva, are within Maya itself, you do not wield it, whereas Ishvara does. Therefore, The difference between the Jiva and Ishvara is based solely on which side of Maya they are on. Krishna wields the Maya because of which the entire world and its beings exist. And being deluded by this Maya, being under its spell, the spell of ignorance, people do not see the Atma, that is Krishna Ishvara. While the Jiva does not see the Paramatma, Ishvara has no such problem because he has the Maya under his control. Therefore, the world itself, which is born of Maya, is under his control. The idea being conveyed here is that the Jiva does not know his real nature, Swarupa. This not knowing one's Swarupa is called avidya, ignorance. Whereas, as Ishvara, Krishna can say, as he did here, keeping my Maya under my control, I become one who, as though has a body. This is the definition of an avatara. When it is said that an avatara is one who comes down, what is meant is that he assumes a body. He as though has a body, as though because he is not lost in the body. In other words, he does not take himself to be the body. A Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated, can also say, I as though have a body, because this person knows the real nature of I, the Atma. To be able to say this requires knowledge, and to acquire this knowledge, one has to be living. This is why the person who has such knowledge is called Jivan Mukta. Living, he is liberated. And before this knowledge takes place, the Jiva comes into this world as a result of the past karma alone. By the force of karma, meaning one's past actions and their results, a physical body, along with a mind and senses, is created with a parentage and a time and place. And we say the person is born. Such a person is called Jiva. Only by acquiring the knowledge that he or she is Param Brahma can the Jiva be free of the cycle of birth and death and all that goes with it. Knowing thus, the person is free, but the body continues to exist because it is the creation of Ishvara, Ishvara Srishti. So Ishvara takes as though a form of a body, keeping Maya under his control. Whereas a Jiva is born out of karma. He is born helplessly with the effect of Maya. And he is Ishvara Srishti. So therefore, although he may be liberated like a Jivan Mukta, he will continue in the body till as long as the karma continues. The prarabdha karma continues. And the only way a jiva can be free from this cycle of birth and death is through recognition of his true nature. Ishvara is as though taking a body in the avatars because he does not have the identification with the body. Omniscience does not require a mind. Thus, Krishna tells Arjuna here that as Ishvara, he keeps the Maya under his control. His powers, the Jnana Shakti, the power to know, the Kriya Shakti, the power to do, and the Ichcha Shakti, the power to desire, are all under his control and are not limited in any way. Since his power to know is without limitation, he does not require an antakarana, a mind to know. Without the mind, he has all knowledge. All knowledge, omniscience, cannot depend upon a given mind because any mind will have some limitation. Furthermore, the mind itself is a creation, and before creating it, the Lord must have knowledge. Therefore, no mind is required by Ishvara. The very Maya itself makes him omniscient. He is called Parameshwara, and this Parameshwara alone becomes the world. This is the Maya, the trick of it all. An understanding of Avatara. In order to understand the Vedic and Puranic literature, one needs to have some understanding of the concept of Avatara. In the Bhagavata, Ramayana, and the Mahabharata, Rama, Krishna, and certain others are presented as avatars. Avatara means God incarnate. Because of its significance here, this concept will be analyzed briefly in terms of orders of reality. In general, we can divide the orders of reality into three. One is the absolute reality, Paramarthika, that which is Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma, free from all attributes, and upon which the entire world depends. Then there is the empirical reality, Vyavaharika, which accounts for the world and all that is in it: space, air, fire, water, earth, the sun, moon, and stars, the natural laws, and so on. Included in this order of reality are the various situations that cause joy and sorrow, as well as your physical body, mind, and senses. All means and ends, sadhana and sadhya, also have an empirical reality, some of which are already known to you and others are revealed by the Veda. There are certain Vedic, for example, that are prescribed for having a child and for going to heaven. The heaven mentioned by the Shastra is considered to be as empirically real as a material object here in this world. Thirdly, there is a purely subjective order of reality, pratibhasika, such as that we experience in a dream. So the three orders of reality are Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, and Pratibhasika. Empirical reality. A pot, for instance, is not something that you imagine. It
Can
actually
you read
holds.
that again, that previous paragraphs, where it is said you when you don't know your identity, you cannot. That part. Second last paragraph.
This is what, is this where it is?
Yes.
So omniscience does not require a mind. Thus Krishna tells Arjuna here that as Ishvara, he keeps the Maya under his control. So here I will read this about the jiva. Okay. By the force of karma, meaning one's past actions and their results, a physical body, along with the mind and senses, is created with a parentage and a time and place. And we say the person is born. This is the difference between an avatara and the birth of a jiva. Such a person is called jiva. Only by acquiring the knowledge that he or she is Param Brahma can the jiva be free of the cycle of birth and death and all that goes with it. Knowing thus, the person is free, but the body continues to exist because it is the creation of Ishvara, Ishvara Srishti. Omniscience does not require a mind. Thus, Krishna tells Arjuna here that as Ishvara, he keeps the Maya under his control. His powers, the Jnana Shakti, the power to know, Kriya Shakti, the power to do, and Ichcha Shakti, the power to desire, are all under his control and are not limited in any way. Since his power to know is without limitation, he does not require an antakarana, a mind to know. Without the mind, he has all knowledge. All knowledge, omniscience cannot depend upon a given mind because any mind will have some limitation. Furthermore, the mind itself is a creation, and before creating it, the Lord must have knowledge. Therefore, no mind is required by Ishvara. The very Maya itself makes him omniscient. He is called Parameshwara, and this Parameshwara alone becomes the world. This is the Maya, the trick of it all. An understanding of Avatara. In order to understand the Vedic and Puranic literature, one needs to have some understanding of the concept of Avatara. In the Bhagavata, Ramayana, and Mahabharata, Rama, Krishna, and certain others are presented as avatars. Avatara means God incarnate. Because of its significance here, this concept will be analyzed briefly in terms of orders of reality. So, there are three orders of reality. One is the absolute reality, Paramarthika, which is Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma, free from all attributes and upon which the entire world depends. So, this is that unchanging entity, eternal unchanging entity. Then there is the empirical reality, Vyavaharika, which accounts for the whole world and all that is in it: space, air, fire, water, earth, sun, moon, stars, natural laws, and so on. Included in this order of reality are the various situations that cause joy and sorrow, as well as your physical body, mind, and senses. All means and ends, sadhana and sadhya, also have an empirical reality, some of which are already known to you and others are revealed by the Veda. There are certain Vedic rituals, for example, prescribed to go to heaven or to have a child. The heaven mentioned by the Shastra is considered to be as empirically real as a material object here in this world. Thirdly, there is a purely subjective order of reality, pratibhasika, such as that we experience in a dream.
What can be that rituals? What we are not aware of that. That one is understood, but second, that heaven part.
No, I didn't understand your question. What is it?
Actually, he said no. There are some rituals which can be known and which can be desired for heaven also and all, for
Yeah,
having a child also.
so that is the sadhana they're talking about. So
Hmm.
they also have, they are also empirical reality. That is also, so everything, the Veda, including all the rituals that the Veda prescribes, puts up, has only empirical reality.
No, my question was, what may be that? Can you means? Is there a name for that rituals?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you have any remember any name for that?
This having a child is called the Putra Kameshti Yaga.
Correct. And then heaven.
Going to heaven, you have so many rituals. They may be
Okay.
different names. I don't know the names,
Hmm.
but all the homas and all those rituals that are done
Hmm. Hmm.
to gain heaven,
Okay. Thank
They
you.
are all
Thank
kamya karmas.
they're all kamya karmas. All the kamya karmas. Because see, heaven is also an empirical reality. It is as real as a
you. Yes.
material object here in this world.
So till the concept of heaven is not clear, we desire for that. So we will do that like that.
No, see, in the
Mm.
Vedas have two parts to it. No, the first part is all the rituals part. The second
Mm.
Vedanta is talking about the self, about knowledge. So the first part of the Veda, in the Bhagwan also mentions this in the second chapter. He says, Yamima pushpitam vacham pravadanti manishinaha Vedavadarata partha nanyadasti vadina. So there are the very flowery, very enticing words from the Veda that come out that can capture your mind. You do this, you will get this. You do this, you will gain heaven. You do this, you will get punya. So you're still reeling in the punya papa. In the sense, the activities are all around gaining punya so that you get a better place in the heaven or you get a better birth. So we are the person who is, who is attracted to the first part of the Veda is just caught up in all these kamya karmas that promise him a better life, more punya. Whereas the Vedanta talks of going beyond punya and papa even. Dvandvatita, going beyond the dvandvas, going beyond the pairs of opposites. And if you look at heaven and hell, they are also pairs of opposites. So, which is why Bhagwan is goading us to have vyavasayatmika buddhi. He says, have this one pointed approach to life rather than get caught up in this ritual and that ritual. And having set rituals, the same Bhagwan says. That is why Bhagavad Gita has a lot of contradictions. He says, what is that? Um, Yajna dana tapah karma na tyaje. As a karma yogi, living in this world, you have to continue doing your yajna, dana, and tapa. But with what? With this understanding. It's all, the whole thing is all about our attitude and understanding. It's all to do with our mental attitude. Are you doing it with fear for happiness, or are you doing it fearlessly out of happiness? Understanding that this is only to clear and polish my antakarana. I'm not sure whether your question has been
Yes,
you
it's
your
clear. Yes, yes. Thank you.
And see, there are three orders. So this pratibhasika is very subjective. My dream is different from your dream. Each one of us individually has different dreams, right? So that is purely subjective. Whereas the empirical reality, what I see as mud, you also see as mud. So there is some semblance of similarity with the empirical reality. Although, of course, it depends on how much of um, how clearly each of us is seeing reality as reality, right? If our understanding is clouded, what we perceive will be different from what the others see. So let's continue further and we'll see. Empirical reality. A pot, for instance, is not something that you imagine. It actually holds water, but it cannot be considered to be independently real, absolutely real, because it is dependent on something else for its existence, the material out of which it is made. Therefore, you cannot say it is Paramarthika Satya, nor can you dismiss it as non existent because it holds water. If you say the pot is absolutely real or that it is absolutely non existent, your very statement does not hold water. Only an existent pot can hold water. A non existent pot cannot. So just let this sink in. I will just come back. So we cannot say that a pot is totally non existent because it holds water. But is it independently existent? No, because if you tease down the cause of the pot is dependent on the material that from which it is made. The existent pot is something that has a history. It was born at a given time and has lived in various homes. It has gone through a certain process of growth and old age, holes and repair work. It has seen ages and has passed through many hands. Now, having had its day, it is parked in some corner somewhere, an old, useless pot. Thus, the pot definitely enjoys a certain reality, because of which we accept it as something that has a name and form, nama rupa, and behaves with certain laws, and behaves within certain laws. This reality is what is meant by empirical reality, vyavaharika satya. And for understanding the empirical reality, we have sense perception and other pramanas such as inference and presumption. When the Veda talks about ends like heaven and the means for attaining them, it is talking only about empirical reality. If heaven is a place, it is something within the creation, and therefore it is included in this order of reality. The various rituals enjoined by Veda imply a doer, karta, who must perform certain karmas in order to achieve the desired ends. Since the means and end are interconnected, the means also have an empiricality, whether they involve worldly action, laukika karma, or scriptural injunction, vaidika karma. Because means and ends are all dependent upon something else, they are not absolutely real. Therefore, they are not paramarthika, but vyavaharika, being totally within the empirical sphere. The word empirical is the closest English translation there is for Vyavaharika, which covers everything known and unknown within the sphere of the creation that is not created by a given mind. It includes everything that is understood at a given time. It also includes all that is not understood now, but that may be understood later. This kind of world and the mind itself, the mind stuff, brain cells, and so on, all belong to the empirical world. The physical body and its organs, the senses and their constituents, the capacity to remember, to love, to think, and to know are all vyavaharika, meaning that they have an empirical reality. I will read further and then we'll repeat it. Okay? Subjective reality. The third order of reality is purely subjective and is called pratibhasika in Sanskrit. The dream is an example of this order of reality. Something exists because you see it. Any mistaken notion, unknown fears, and all forms of projections are also pratibhasika. When, for instance, you take a post for a man, sthanau purusha darshana, or imagine that someone does not like you, it is a projection, purely subjective, and therefore pratibhasika. What you see is not there, but still you see it. The very seeing gives your projection a certain reality. Everyone projects, everyone commits mistakes. Pratibhasika reality is possible because the mind is limited. It is not omniscient. Also, the mind has a particular background that creates for itself certain prejudices, fears, anxieties, disappointments, sorrows, and perceptions. This is why everyone at one time or another sees what is not really there and does not see what is there. For example, even though a person has some love for you, you may not recognize it, seeing instead some dislike, simply because you happen to notice the person frowning and you know not why. All projections, all mistakes are possible because you have a mind. You think so, and therefore it is. And since this reality that exists only for you has no empiricality, it is called pratibhasika. Wherever there is pratibhasika reality, there is error. And wherever there is error, the correction of error must be possible. That is, knowledge must be there. Suppose, for example, you are making pastry and mistake the salt for sugar. What you want is pastry, or what you get is something quite different. Both the sugar and the salt have an empirical reality because the senses are able to differentiate between them. At the same time, there is a mistake because sugar produces pastry and salt produces something else. If you use salt thinking it will make pastry, you are committing a mistake. Given this particular fact, this law, error is always possible. This is all within our experience. Atma is a self-evident experience. Consciousness is experience. All experiences are strung into this consciousness by this consciousness, just as beads are held together by a string. Consciousness is there in all the three forms of experience: sleep, dream, and waking. These three experiences, severally and totally, are held in one experience called consciousness, which is all evident. It is evident that we create our own subjective realities, and it is also evident that we are dealing with a world which conforms to an order, which behaves in an orderly way. Thus, we have a cosmos which is empirical, a chaos which is subjective, and that which is constant, Satchid Ananda Atma. This Satchit Ananda Atma seems to exist in the form of a threefold reality. For lack of a better term, we use this term, that is, the threefold reality. In fact, there is only one reality, Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma. The relationship among the three orders of reality. Between the empirical reality and the subjective reality, there is a difference. The entire creation, empirical reality, is called Ishvara Srishti, the Lord's creation, and the projection of one's own mind is called Jiva Srishti, the individual subjective creation. At all times, we are confronting these two orders of reality, the empirical and the subjective, on the basis of the one absolute reality, Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma. With this understanding of the orders of reality, let us return to the verse. Krishna says, I am born wielding the Maya, the Prakriti, in my hands. In this way, I assume a body. Because the Lord can create the whole world and also assume a body, there is no problem in seeing that Krishna's birth is referred to here as an incarnation of Ishvara based on the concept of avatara, avatara vada. But the next question would be, to which order of reality does the physical body that the Lord assumes belong? When Krishna points out that he is unborn, never born, he is pointing out the absolute reality, Paramarthika Satya. In fact, from the standpoint of absolute reality, no one is born. Thus, from this standpoint, Krishna is not born, and Mr. Krishna, who is standing before Arjuna, cannot be that Paramarthika Satya. It must be kept in mind here that we are not talking about Krishna, who is Paramatma, but we are talking about Mr. Krishna, who was born in prison, who had a body, who wore a yellow piece of cloth, who played a flute, and who, seated in Arjuna's chariot, was holding the reins of the horses in his hands. Is this Krishna who was teaching Arjuna Paramarthika? No, he is not, because his body is not Paramarthika. Surely then we can say that Krishna's body is empirically real, Vyavaharika. But if it were to be taken as empirically real, would Krishna not have been born of his own karma, and therefore would he not also be a samsari like Arjuna? And if he were born of his own karma, punya and papa would be there for him, along with dharma and adharma, doership and enjoyership. If he were bound by karma, where would be the possibility of his wielding the Maya? In order for his birth to be considered empirical, Krishna had to have been under the spell of karma, meaning that without his volition, his birth would have been determined by the very laws. Only then can his birth be considered to be like empirical that be to be like empirical that of Arjuna. The empirical reality of a jiva's birth. Arjuna, being a jiva, was born of karma. Even though he was born a prince, he had to go to the forest for 12 years and then live incognito for 1 year, all of which could be attributed to his past karma. The destiny of Arjuna's eldest brother, Dharmaputra, was also controlled by his own punya and papa. Because of his papa, he lost the kingdom. Otherwise, the dice would have rolled out differently, or he would not have thrown them at all. Some prarabdha karma was there for him. The Shastra itself talks about this kind of karma. Arjuna was a person, a jiva, born of karma, and therefore his birth, janma, was empirically real. He had a parentage and a physical body, mind, and senses, all of which have an empirical reality, as we have seen. Krishna, on the other hand, said that as Ishvara, keeping the Maya under his control, he is born. We will see later why he was born. The reality of Krishna's birth. I'm just going through. We'll, of course, come back and repeat. We'll understand as much as we understand, and we'll have some manana in the end. The body of anyone who is born is available for our perception. But what is available for our perception is not always totally true. The blue sky, for example, or a magician's tricks. Therefore, perception itself cannot establish the empirical reality of Krishna's birth. If, as Ishvara, Krishna is born, keeping the Maya under his control, his birth is definitely not subject to any punya or papa. Therefore, being not bound by karma, it has no empirical status. Birth itself, being what it is, cannot be paramarthika either. Nor can Krishna's birth be totally non-existent, atyanta asat, since he was not a Bandhya Putra, the son of a barren woman. He was born of Devaki and Vasudeva. Thus, it was not a totally non-existent Krishna who was talking to Arjuna. Then, how are we to explain Krishna's birth in terms of reality? With reference to his birth, Krishna is Pratibhasika. You see him, therefore he is. His birth is not due to karma, it is only apparent. Pratibhasika means that there was a Krishna whom everyone saw, but his birth and his body were purely Maya. Like everything else, they were born of Maya, but without the force of the law of karma. This kind of birth means that Ishvara is not condemned to the state of jivatva. He merely assumes a particular body due to a certain necessity alone. Very interesting turn, right? So the birth of Krishna, Krishna is Pratibhasika. So it is subjective. You see him and therefore he is. Why does Aishwara assume a physical body? And what is it that makes it necessary for the Lord to assume a physical body? In the Puranas, it is said that before every incarnation, there is a collective petition to the Lord in the form of prayers on the part of all the good people and even the Devas. Oh Lord, please do something. Please come and remedy the situation. It is time. Time's up. In fact, why haven't you come? The tyranny of these people is too much for us to bear, etc. These very prayers themselves become the material cause, the upadana karana, for the Lord to introduce himself in a particular form, meaning that he assumes a body. The prayers of the jivas become the punya, because of which a particular body is born for a given purpose. This incarnation of the Lord is what is meant by avatara. The purpose of the avatara's coming may be just to do one job, like Narasimha Avatara or Vamana Avatara, or to do many, as was the case with Rama and Krishna. In addition to the many jobs they came to do, Rama and Krishna also served as examples with reference to how people should live their lives. Rama exemplified how one can live a life of dharma in the face of all adversity, and Krishna was an embodiment of joy and wisdom. It should be clearly understood that the concept of avatara is not required at all in order to worship Krishna as the Lord. A picture of Krishna as Ishvara is all that is needed for invoking the Lord. In fact, we can invoke the Lord in anything, even a rock. Invoking the Lord in a particular form and the concept of avatara are entirely different. We discuss it here only because the verse is referring to Krishna as avatara. Krishna himself says, "By my own powers of Maya, I as though assume a body." Shankara says in his commentary to this verse, while explaining how Ishvara assumes a body, Dehavan iva, Jataha iva, as though with a body, as though born. The word iva, as though, in Shankara's commentary indicates that there can be no empiricality here because Krishna's birth was not out of punya and papa. If there were punya and papa for Ishvara, then he would not be Ishvara at all. Therefore, when Ishvara assumes a body, he is only as though born. He has a body, but his body has no empiricality because it was not born out of punya and papa. If there were punya and papa for Ishvara, we would have the problem of an Ishvara with limitations with reference to the Antahkarana, which is not acceptable. And as we have seen, that is not possible because Ishvara is all knowledge. Therefore, Krishna tells Arjuna here, without punya and papa, I am born, which is the very concept of avatara. In the next verse, Krishna explains why, as Ishvara, he assumes a body. So, yes, I read it through directly up until here. I know we'll need a lot of repetition, but let's just sum up what we have understood before I go and repeat everything. I think each one can express their understanding. So then it will get deeper once we read it again. So basically, there are three orders of reality. One is Paramarthika Satya, Vyavaharika Satya, and Pratibhasika Satya. Paramarthika is absolute reality. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That is absolute knowledge that does not have another cause for it. It is the cause for everything. And then we have the Vyavaharika Satya, which is the whole world, the whole creation, and everything else that exists in the creation. Seen and unseen, understood, not understood, all of that comes under the whole totality of creation, comes under the Vyavaharika Satya. And then this Pratibhasika Satya, the beautiful explanation of Pratibhasika Satya is subjective reality. And examples given are the dreams that we have. Not just dreams, also our ideas, our concepts, our prejudices, our bias.
But Krishna's birth is also Pratibhashika Satya because it is not bound by the karma and it has to be there. So the body has taken. So how the dream and this reality means Krishna's birth, we can say the Pratibhashika.
It is Pratibhasika because you see, it requires some perception. So you see him as Krishna. You see him as Krishna with the flute, with the yellow cloth and whatever else, the peacock feather. And that is a subject. The reason why he is not the empirical reality is because he is not born of punya and papa, unlike the jiva. The jiva requires, is born of punya and papa, is born of karma, limited knowledge, because he's still bound by the avidya. Whereas Ishvara is all knowledge. There is no mind in Ishvara. He's beyond the mind. The mind is a creation, right? So
Mm. Krishna is born out of Maya or Arjuna? Arjuna is born out of Maya.
Arjuna is born out of Maya. But
Mm.
Krishna wielding Maya, he has Maya
Mm.
under his control.
Mm.
Whereas Arjuna does not have Maya. Arjuna is bound by Maya. Whereas, see, Maya Pati and Maya Dasa. So at will, he as though assumes a body. And it is so beautifully mentioned. It is the collective petition to the Lord in the form of prayers on the part of all good people. This is what we've seen in the Puranas. There is some tyranny happening. And funnily, we are actually going through a same situation right now. There is the whole world, and the war situation that's going on is no different from what was happening in the Puranas, where there are demons who are destroying and causing disturbance. And then all the devas go and petition to Lord Vishnu, please do something. So it is these prayers themselves become the material cause, the upadana karana, for the Lord to introduce himself in a particular form. So the prayers of the jivas become the punya because of which a particular body is born for a given purpose. So the punya is not Krishna's punya papa. It is the prayers of devotees. This whole verse is about explaining the genesis of an avatara. And in order to explain that, these three orders of reality are given. See, we are on the other side of Maya. That is why we are not able to understand. It is now beyond the logical mind. If we try to understand an avatara logically, it's not possible. That is why
But now it
Bhagwan,
is very clear how the Avtara is now. Means any body we see means came for the benefit of the whole world or something like that. So that is a Avtara now for us. Because it is not born out of his or own karma. Means it is Maya Tita.
Jai Gurudev, just a small sharing. In
yeah,
Bhagavatam, very beautifully it is mentioned Purna Avatar, Amshik Avatar, Nimitta Avatar, Archaka Avatar. So it is here, it is Swamiji has explained so beautifully. It is straight clearance that how whether we take it as a form of Ma Durga or Lord Krishna or for that matter any of them as the collective prayer of devas or right now as even I am thinking that why because I think our we as devotees we have to have that artha that dukkha that where are you we are still more attracted to the samsara and less to the Lord. That is why he is not forced to take the form and come and rescue us. So I believe that Very beautifully, Swamiji has explained here that he is born out of his own Maya. He is Mayapati. And we all are taking birth, and I mean, because we are born out of karma. And Archaka Avatara very beautifully explained in Bhagavatam that in whichever form you worship, he gives you that confirmation that I'm there.
Very
Yeah,
right. So that is why it is said you can worship him even in a rock. See, it should be clearly understood that the concept of avatara is not required at all in order to worship Krishna as the Lord. You can worship Krishna as the Lord in any aspect of creation because he is the creation. A picture of Krishna as Ishvara is all that is needed for invoking the Lord. In fact, we can invoke the Lord in anything, even a rock. Invoking the Lord in a particular form and the concept of avatar are entirely different.
Yeah, in Vrajavasis, if you see Vaishnavites, they see in Giriraj also, they see. Even Raman Maharshi in Arunachala, he saw. I mean, it is so very beautiful. We are able to relate that and they make it, they made it sure that it is, that form they have worshipped is still like you feel that vibration.
Mm.
Brahmaraji, we are in a Jiva Srushti as we are Jiva, but we are in the Ishwar Srushti. That can you tell about that Jiva Srushti and Ishwar Srushti, which started with this, means in these paragraphs we have started. Jiva
Yeah.
Srushti and Ishwara Srushti.
Shall we take that up tomorrow?
Okay, no
Because
problem.
tomorrow we'll read this whole thing one more time.
Yeah,
Then,
we need one repetition. Correct.
yeah, we'll do that. Certainly, we'll do that.
Whatever we have done today, we have to go through it
We'll
again.
repeat that one more time tomorrow, okay?
Thank you.
Because it's about time to close now. So we'll repeat this again tomorrow. But what my takeaway is this pratibhasika satya. So this is the chaos. On one side, you have bliss, which is paramatika satya, satyam jnanam anantam brahma. And then you have empirical reality, which is maya. And then you have chaos, which is how you perceive the world and how clearly you perceive what is the world, how clearly you see reality as it is, reality as in this empirical reality as it is, will depend upon the less prejudices, less bias, less concepts that we have in our mind. Wrong understanding, delusion, hallucinations, all of this, it masks our mind. It's that beautiful paragraph which said, the person is full of love, but you don't see that love. You see only the frown, and you think, oh, he does not like you. So that is all subjective. And the whole of Karma Yoga is to purify this Pratibhasika Satya, to clear up the Antakarana of all this muck, likes and dislikes, and the chaos. We'll close here today. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.